Welcome back. New research shows how immigration on TV is shifting in important ways, both positive and negative. So here to talk about why that matters is Pulitzer Prize award-winning journalist Jose Antonio Vargas from the nonprofit Define American. Thank you for coming to St. Louis, and thank you for coming to Today in St. Louis.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Really appreciate it. Okay, so why is it important to track the way we see immigrant stories on television, and do you think it's more positive than negative?
Well, first of all, we live in a country where there's 45 million immigrants, right? Many of them here in St. Louis, in Missouri, actually. And for so many people, the way they see immigrants and the way they view us is by the media they're consuming, right?
Right, of course.
And it's either Fox News or ABC or Bob Love's Abishola on CBS, right? Which depicts the black immigrant experience. So it's really important that we look at what content and what stories we're telling, because it kind of reflects where the public is and what the public is about an issue like immigration. Like for example, at Define American, we really believe a lot in original research. We work with the Norman Lear Center, and we found that the way immigrants are portrayed as criminals in crime procedural shows have actually increased.
Yes, like 40%, right?
40%. Thank you for reading the report. Yes,
I read the
increased
report.
40%. And so whenever you see an immigrant in a crime procedural, they're viewed in this kind of criminal lens, when in reality, immigrants are actually less likely to commit a crime than native-born U.S. citizens.
Well, I want to point this out because the St. Louis community really rallies behind its immigrant population. We have a group called Mosaic. We also have the International Institute. And I will say there seems to be some sort of disconnect, right? When we look at how the community supports immigration and immigrants and immigrant stories, and then how we see it portrayed in entertainment and then politicized. Well, Where's the disconnect?
I think the disconnect is, this is why all politics is local. This is why it's really important, right? It's really important that we know what's happening in our local communities and how people are portrayed in the communities that they live in. Because if all we did was go by what presidential candidates are saying or what national figures are saying, in some ways they kind of go to the stereotypes, they go to the kind of the reductive ways of looking at immigrants. So for me, I really kudos to all the groups that are doing that kind of work in the local communities.
Yeah.
I think they're more important than ever, to be honest.
Okay, so your organization launched a tool that helps the entertainment industry develop these more nuanced and authentic stories with immigrant characters. How does it work?
Yeah, so actually if you go to your phone, you can actually check it out.
We have it on TV right there.
Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah.
So you can actually, this is like a 10-minute test that if you're a writer of a television show, you take this test before you start writing. You ask yourself kind of a series of questions where, hey, is this immigrant character solely defined by their immigration status, right? Do they reflect the diversity of the immigrant population? Like here in Missouri, for example, the 3 top immigrant groups are Asian, not Latino, right? I mean, the 5th largest immigrant group are Bosnians.
Bosnians, probably, yeah.
And I wonder how many undocumented Bosnians are walking around, and yet we don't think of white people as undocumented, right? And so the tool for us is a ways that people can really understand how complex it is, right, this issue is. And look, if there are 45 million immigrants in this country, that means there are 45 million ways of being an immigrant in this country.
Right. Okay, so I should mention you're in St. Louis to do some homework for your new book.
Yes.
This is your book that I have read and loved, and also a lot of students. That's how we met, yes. But what are you doing in St. Louis in terms of homework? Because I know you're trying to learn something here.
I'm trying to learn. Well, the book that I'm working on now is really a journalistic approach at looking at where do non-black, non-white people fit in this black-white binary that this country has had foundationally, right? Like, where do people like us, where do we fit in that conversation? In a country where Latinos, Asians, and mixed-race people are actually becoming the emerging majority in the country. In the state of California, where I'm from, 65% of all Californians are either Latino or Asian. 65%.
Well, and you know what, even in Missouri, for example, I know a lot of adoptees, a lot of adoptive families. I'm an adoptee. I've been very open about sharing my story. But I came as an actual immigrant. My documentation is an immigrant.
Yes.
I had to become a naturalized citizen. adoptees don't have to do that now, but I am documented as an immigrant and had to go through that process. A lot of adoptees my age, there are like thousands of adoptees who are at risk for deportation because they never became naturalized because of their parents. So
there's actually an interesting movie called Blue Bayou that came out a couple years ago.
yeah, Justin Chan, right?
Justin Chan, that looked at the complexity of that. But to me, though, figuring out in a country where all these minority groups are no longer becoming the minority, I think that's the question. Where do we fit in that conversation?
Yeah. Oh, I could talk to you all morning long, Jose. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you for having
time.
me.
Thank you for coming to St. Louis. I hope you don't get caught into storms either, because Gary's been talking about